Thank you for joining us, LabCoatAgents. We've got Scott Shapiro, who works over at Facebook. He's a longtime friend of ours, and he's going to take us through what Facebook has been shifting to in the real estate world. This way, you better understand how to use Facebook for our world, and then we'll talk a little bit about where they're heading and what we should be looking out for. So, Scott, thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it.
Always, Tristan. These are always, when I look at my calendar and I think about, interactions with you guys and the community, it's always one of the highlights of, my quarter. I know we try to do this once or twice a quarter, and it's always something I enjoy. It's a chat amongst friends, which I think is the best way to have a conversation. So as always, thanks to you. Thank you to the LabCoatAgents community. Thank you guys for your support. And we're really excited to walk through some fun stuff that I think our team has worked really hard on, and we think is going to be a game changer for folks tuning in today, and how you can have success on our platform and drive your business forward.
Well, dude, I think the biggest challenge that most people in real estate have is really trying to figure out how to use Facebook for their business, because there's so many companies out there. They're like, yep, use me, boost this, boost that, just post, right? Mm-hmm. And it's challenging to get through it all.
Yes. So it's like you've given me the perfect, like I call it, the perfect fastball, right? Like if I can't hit this one out of the park today, I need to reconsider my life choices. So it's great that you mentioned that, Tristan. We agree. So one thing I'm going to share in the majority of the conversation we're going to have today is something that we launched last Monday. It's called the Top Provider Initiative. And to Tristan's point, for the community, what this is basically Facebook looking and working with tech providers, ad tech providers through the real estate space, vetting their solutions, working with them on solutions, collaboration, so that basically when you see me, if I'm post-COVID at a conference, such as the National Association of Realtors conference, if I'm speaking, and you walk up to me and you say, okay, I understand the power of Facebook, but I don't know how to do it, and I don't know who to use to help me do this right. Yeah. We now have an answer. And so we're really excited, Tristan, to share that. We think that we've come up with a solution with collaboration with some of these top ad tech providers that really highlight, whether you're an agent at Keller Williams or at Remax or Realogy, or you're an independent agent, we now have a really set, defined list of providers that you should think about using to do advertising and marketing across Facebook, Instagram, and Messenger. So it's an exciting time.
All right. Well, dude, I know you have a website that you guys created recently. It's I always lose
it's a little mealy mouthed here. I'll give it to you. It is www.facebook.com/business/industries/real-estate. So right. we're gonna go there. Do you want to share your screen, or do you want me to share my screen?
Let me share my screen really quick, buddy.
Awesome.
And then we can dive into this a little bit more, because this is one place that we can all come to when we have any questions as to where to start. But Scott, take us through this, buddy.
Sure. So the Top Provider Initiative is basically our work with, as I mentioned, ad tech providers looking at their solutions as well as brokerage solutions. So in prior engagements, prior webinars that we've done together, Tristan, we've talked about the fact that when we launched our team, one of the first things that we did was we worked with some of the larger real estate enterprise brokerage companies. So the Realogies of the world, Compass, Remax, Keller Williams, Exit, Berkshire, and worked with them and collaborated with them very closely on their ad tech tools. So things such as Realogy Social Ad Engine, Keller Williams Command, Remax Megaphone, Compass's Marketing Center, the Exit Ad Center. So these were basically the brokerage tools that they provided you as an agent or a broker or a team lead, to basically tie into Facebook and do Facebook marketing better. We still stand 150% behind those tools. Nothing has changed from that narrative. It's something we talked about last summer, and we've talked about for the better part of actually a year and a half, almost 2 years now. So as you scroll down, what we wanted to do is we wanted to take the next step. So the next step for us was basically, okay, from if you're an agent amongst that network, right, that have tools, there's solutions that you should think about using. But what if you want to use a different solution? What if you're an independent agent? What if it's for whatever reason you have as a independent operator, you don't want to use the corporate provided tools. We wanted to go under the hood and work with some of the providers that are big in the space and make sure that, when we go to a conference, we see our logo across hundreds of companies, right? Everybody says they have a Facebook solution, but what does it mean to have a Facebook solution? So the tiles you see, these companies, and I'll get into the criteria. We had very specific criteria we're going to walk through in our PDF. I'll show you guys all the things that these companies have built and we've vetted with them to give them this distinction of a top provider. But when you look at these tiles on the screen, it's companies such as AdWorks, Back at You Media, Boomtown, Bold Lead Sync, Ylopo, HomeSnap, I think we have about 10 providers that we've looked at, that we worked really closely with to make sure that the criteria meets Facebook best practices. So as an example, we know that the majority of real estate agents want to have lead generation on digital platforms, be at their fingertips. But we also wanted to make sure that we see the value of full funnel marketing. So all of these firms offer the reach objectives. So, your top of the funnel brand awareness. They offer a mid-funnel traffic generation criteria awareness play. And then they offer Facebook lead ads. So those were things that we looked at as, what can you do as an agent? So if you need a lead generation channel, their providers, they should have a full suite of tools for you. You should have the opportunity to market yourself, whether it's you as a brand, the agent, you as a brokerage, recruiting ads for brokerages, lead generation, the full scope. So that was the first piece of criteria. The second piece was to make sure that one of the little known facts, and Tristan, you and Nick talk about this a lot, and we've talked about it extensively, is really the use of not just Facebook, but Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and all the different places that the consumer spends their time. So one of the things that we've done in this is that we've asked providers and given them the guidance that they should at least have 4+ placements. So think about it this way. Your ads should run across Facebook's newsfeed, Instagram feed. It should be in stories. So we have 3 different opportunities for stories: Instagram, Facebook, Messenger, Facebook Marketplace. So again, what we want to do is we want to widen the scope of where agents and brokers find consumers. We want to take some of that guesswork out. So again, if you're an agent, you're trying to do this on your own, it's really hard sometimes to find those tools in Ads Manager. Providers should be able to do this for you. And that's basically in a nutshell why we designed this initiative.
No,
so Tristan, if you
that's interesting.
Go ahead, buddy.
I'm just gonna side note here on something you just said.
Yeah.
So before Spencer Raskoff left Zillow, Spencer, he good dude. He and I had lunch, and he was like, dude, and this is before everybody turned on Zillow in the real estate world. Okay. He goes, dude, if we could only have the agents that we send leads to be better at returning phone calls, be better at connecting with the lead, just be better in general, right? Mm-hmm. They would have so much more success with these leads, right? And if you like Zillow or not, I'm not a fan, right? But if you like Zillow or not, Zillow has some great leads. I can't argue with that, because that's bottom of funnel. And so when I look at these right here, these tiles, you guys in essence have gone to the companies that are making it work.
Correct.
So you leave the guesswork out of our hands, and you're like, hey guys, just go to these companies. They've got it down. We work with them closely. So if you decide to boost, if you decide to do dare ads, if you decide to do lead ads, if you decide to do Instagram or whatever these companies offer, they're working with us closely. So it's going to work. And I think that in essence helps us get to that next step faster.
It does. And if you think about it, so, think about agents doing things on their own. So, I think we've talked a lot about, boosting is a very rudimentary, basic way to advertise across Facebook. Mm-hmm. But what if you could do all of the advanced optimizations? What if you could do best practices? There's no cost difference in the ad, but it's the knowledge base. It's the tools. It's the ease. It's thinking through you're a real estate agent. You shouldn't be a digital marketing expert. You shouldn't sit with tools for hours on end to try to figure out what's the right way to market my business, market my listing, market my services, market my expertise across Facebook and Instagram. So in this case, it's the perfect marriage of taking the most optimal, advanced advertising solutions, working with providers who work with our team in close collaboration. I'm kind of laughing just because there are hundreds of emails to show all the different things that each partner is thinking about: how to build on the platform, how to operationalize tasks, how do we think about implementation of new ad formats. These are things that agents shouldn't be thinking about. That's not their expertise. Their expertise is what they do, which is to sell real estate. Our job as a provider and a platform is to find a way to make it easy and effective, and so that every dollar you spend on the platform really goes towards your bottom line and growing your business. And so by vetting providers rather, and really thinking about this, Tristan, because I think our team has, pre-COVID, we've been to hundreds of conventions and hundreds of real estate shows. And what we see is, again, that it's really easy to say you do Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
But when you go and you walk, and and I do this, I think it's a really good exercise of just walking. And if I see our logo, asking the company in question, well, what are you doing on our platform? I don't identify myself as a Facebook employee. I'm just curious, what's the solution? And half the time, if I had hair, as you and I started the conversation, when I had hair, I would have pulled it out. So I would have ended up like this anyway. But it's not in the agent or the broker's best interest. They're not getting the right bang for the buck. So going back to that idea of, if I could sit down with all 2 million agents roughly and brokers, what would I tell them? This is that opportunity. This is what Facebook's kind of going forth and telling you. These are the brokerage tools. If you're at one of the large brokerages, use those, test them. Or if you don't want to go that route, here are 10 companies that really have worked tirelessly, collaboratively, to really, really build the right tools. And once you start talking to the, shop around, talk to each one of them. Each one has a little bit of a different variation, right, of how they work with us, how their tools work with us. But it's really important that this is the best and most effective way to do two things. Save yourself time and agita and agony. They do it for you. They do it the right way because we've had our voice and our collaborative relationships with them. And then the second thing is, it's really ultimately about growing your business. And we know when done correctly, and you are a perfect example of somebody who has done amazing marketing across our platforms, right? You've used tools that we've called out actually in this top provider initiative to grow your business. I mean, you specifically, Nick specifically. So the leads of the largest Facebook real estate group have used these tools and can vouch for them. They've had that firsthand experience. So I think that's the goal we have, is to really make it easy, make it effective, make it clear, so that when somebody says, I know Facebook, you go to the site, download the PDF, watch this webinar, find the materials. And if they're not on the list, there's a reason. They haven't been working as collaboratively with Facebook as they might state. And so that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, again, growing your business. Done effectively, we can grow your business together. And that's our goal. That's why, that's why we come to work every day. It's to empower people, on the other end of this, our agents, our brokers, to grow their business and have success.
All right. What about Canada? Does it work in Canada?
Yes. This is all of North America. So if you do have folks dialing in from outside North America right now, this is really a North American initiative. But yes, the answer is yes. Most of these providers have access to the Canadian real estate market listings, offer their services and their tools.
All right, cool, buddy. All right, so I was looking at the website and I saw a download right here.
Yes. And I can share my screen if you want. I can share.
Good. I was going to say, what the heck is that?
Okay, here, let me make sure I've got my screen sized perfectly so I don't scare everybody. Here we go. Let's see if I can do this right. Is everyone seeing? Hopefully, Tristan, you are seeing this. Wonderful. Perfect. So this is literally a 5-page PDF that talks about top provider. So here, the first page we talk about the narrative. We talk about why we've done this. This is what you and I just spent the last 10, 15 minutes talking about. Why is Facebook putting their foot forward and doing the top provider initiative? Yep. So, again, we're talking about providing accelerated business outcomes, ease, trust, business growth. Okay, so those are the themes. And as a matter of fact, a certain LabCoatAgent superstar is actually on the first page of this very PDF right here. So Nick has his listing from a couple of years ago. So we use that as one of our examples. And then here on the second page, we want to give you the list. So this is the same list that's on the website. So these are the firms in V1 of this initiative. I think an important point, Tristan, is that we're constantly evaluating providers. This is an evergreen program. So as the platforms change and grow, if you think back a couple of years ago, I was thinking about this morning, knowing we were going to talk. I've been at the company so long that not only did we not have a video ad unit, but we didn't have ads on Instagram for the first couple of years I was at the company. And now think about that, right? So it shows, I actually remember when Instagram ads launched, like we had to have executives look at the ads and make sure that the creative was right with some of our early test partners. It was really interesting. And the reason I bring that story up is to just illustrate to agents that our platforms are always going to evolve. They're always going to change. There's something always around the next corner that we're going to want to innovate and do together. From the launch of Instagram as an advertising platform to the launch of stories, to stories now being above the fold in any one of our platforms. Open it up and look, right there. The first thing you see is a Facebook story, Instagram story, Messenger stories. So the reason this list is really important is because we're going to continue to work with these providers. We're going to continue to elevate and change the criteria as the platforms change. We're going to ask them to match us. And if they don't, then we would reevaluate, would company X be in this list? Similarly, there are other providers that are actively working on their solutions to get them up to the format and the criteria that we've asked. And so this list will probably grow over the next couple of months as some of those folks are still working out the kinks and working on developing and expanding their offering to match the criteria we have. So for now, this is our list. And you can see it's a really good mixture of brokerage, large enterprise brokerage tools, and then again, those ad tech providers that anyone can plug into, no matter where they work.
So in this list, man, what do you see as some of these companies that are working with Facebook? What are some of these companies doing very well, like that stand out, that say, well, you know what, this is really good that they're doing?
So I think the first thing is full funnel marketing. They understand the power of where the consumer can be at all points in their journey. So the full funnel marketing, if we think about it, is, it's your brand, it's your local expertise, it's the opportunity to really expand and expound that to your local sphere, your farm. So I think providers that really offer that choice and have expertise in that, they are by far, I think, some of the best that we have, the ones that we really work with that focus on that. They're focused on their video product, they're focused on their stories product. And that is big because, again, that's where the consumers are spending their time. So the name of the game is always, we want to reach consumers to grow your business. We want to do it with ease and effectiveness, but we need to find them there. So I think some of these, all these firms offer it. I think some are really, really dialed in. They're very innovative. They're constantly on to the next thing. And I think what you'll also see here is that a lot of the firms or a lot of the tools offer some form of CRM integration. And why that's important is, again, if we think about it, all the changes that have happened to the platform, housing, employment, and credit, the 15-mile radius, we've stripped out age and gender, we are, and you and I are going to talk about like the future of the internet in a couple of minutes about what's happening. Your CRM becomes and remains, and I've heard this from so many experts in the industry across my years of being in the business now, it's really important that your CRM is really your hub for how you market. So you'll see that several of these firms have, they are CRM providers that also know how to really, really operate on our platform. And you'll see some, and I think Keller Williams Command is a really interesting point of, they have a very robust CRM tool within their enterprise solution, that also offers an advertising component. So I think those are some common things that are really interesting is what ability do they have to integrate your CRM, or if they're a CRM, how are they using your data? How do we make that data, you know, that CRM, the thing you live by, the most important thing probably to your business, which is that connection to the consumer. How do you optimize that on Facebook?
That's a good question, man. Well, I think from the way I see it, because remember you're Facebook, so you have like a neutral stance, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the way I see it is there are companies on this list that use Facebook and Instagram better than others. And I'm not going to tell you which ones they are.
I think you and I could mind meld it. I know where you're going,
but I do want to highlight this.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important that when you decide to choose one of these companies, well, first, you know that Facebook has worked with them closely. Yeah. Second, I would start looking at what your strategy is, right? Do you primarily work with past clients? You have a large sphere, you have a large database, then look for a company that's going to retarget, right? It's going to use dare ads. If you're looking to grow your database, if you're looking to break into an area, then look for a company that can do lead ads, right? If you're looking for seller leads, look for a company that can give you more opportunities with seller leads using Instagram and Facebook. So I think it's important for us as agents to be strategic when we go to these companies. The challenge is we just got kind of just show up and we're like, okay, sign me up. What do you got?
Right.
And that's the wrong approach, right?
It is the wrong approach. I think the other thing is, you know, there are hundreds of companies that claim that they know this. So these are the 10 best that we've collaborated with. And I think that, you know, some are very forward thinking in how they think about product development. So I would ask them some of these questions. You know, I think the biggest thing the thing I would ask them the most, T, is how can I integrate my data? How can that be supercharged to optimize my marketing? And then the second thing is, how do you tackle video and stories? Because again, one of the things that we've seen, and you know, you've participated, you've been in our offices, you've heard large presentations from our executives in our relationship. How do we get away from just static images of the front porch, you know, the front view of the home that comes off the MLS, right? Mm-hmm. So what are the ways in which those firms really think about optimizing and using video and using stories? Because again, the thing to think about here is that that's where the consumer is spending their time. That's where they're the most engaged. So those tools, all of them offer it, but I would really ask them, you know, show examples, have them walk you through the tools, have them walk you through the tools about how they use, you know, CRM data. You know, obviously some of these companies are CRM, so it's kind of redundant, but some of these, you know, if you're looking, you're asked, you know, ask those questions of them. What we can tell you again, though, is amongst a large list, and or even more important, for everyone who's boosting a post, for everyone who's trying to self-service, I would say you're in a far better position using any of these tools and any of these firms than anything you try to do probably on your own. There are folks who are unicorns who really get into our tools and they nerd out, they love it. It's such a small, you know, percentage of the total industry that, you know, that's again why you want to go and talk to these firms and have them help you with your Facebook, your Instagram, messenger marketing. Because again, that's their expertise. And I don't want to undersell, and we're going to pivot to this. I know I'll show a couple more slides, then we can talk about the future of the internet. Is, you know, as the internet changes, you also want to be on top of that. And again, you know, you are not, your primary job is to be a real estate agent, to sell homes, to put people in their dream homes, to work with the title company, to work with the mortgage lender, to provide a community knowledge, to go and find the home inspector, right? Like all the things you have to do as an agent, or you have to do as a broker. The last thing you want to do is have to become a digital marketing expert. And again, I think that's what we're trying to solve here, is to make sure that we put our stamp on that expertise. Really quick, just to show the audience. And again, Tristan has this. He's going to post it into the group. This is on our website. Please, you know, look at this. Feel free to walk through it. We created it so that the industry can look at this and understand where we're going. Here we're talking about, again, the objectives. So this is the full funnel marketing, right? Reach, brand awareness, video views, and then we have lead generation. to your website, and then basically lead generation on Facebook, and then traffic offsite to your website. And then here, these are all the placements that these providers offer in their offering. And it's so important to look at this, because again, you shouldn't make the decision that I'm only going to be in Facebook or I'm only going to be here. What these folks do is they hit all the right magic buttons, and because of their expertise, their one button click sends your ad to all of these different placements. And again, finds the consumer where they are. So, as an example, Tristan, if you're an over-indexer on Instagram stories, we're going to find you on Instagram stories versus maybe me. I'm going to make it up. Maybe I'm more an Instagram feed. Again, this is best practice. And I want to reiterate to the audience.
I love that.
This is, and you know what's really great about this? This is what every large company, every e-com company, gaming company, travel company, Nike, name the biggest companies in the world, their ad agencies do this. And so what we've been able to do is work with the providers so that you, as a local entity, the one single entity of an agent or a larger entity being a team or a brokerage, you can do this. And again, all these providers offer this. And it's so important to see that, because it's, again, the best way to reach the consumer where they are. And then lastly, obviously, we talked a little bit about creative. They're doing the right formatting with creative, and they're continuing to morph and build, and we're continuing that journey as well. I was just on a video conference yesterday with some folks at our Facebook creative shop. We are thinking of some fun things and some things we want to test in the coming next 6 months. So again, this is just a way we can collaborate and be a little bit more on top of things for you guys in the industry. So I'm going to stop sharing, Tristan. I'm going to let you guys go back, and then there you go.
That, man. I think that one slide on that PDF that you were showing, where it says the top providers offer the following ad formats for your ads. I think if we could go a little deeper into that, sometimes we don't even know, or we don't realize when we use these companies to help us grow our touch points, whether it's for branding or for lead generation, right? That Facebook, based on their algorithm, decides where you're getting most of the love from. And if we try to mess around with that, we may not get the same results, because we're not in the weeds every day on this side, right? We're real estate agents for the most part. And so I love that you've been able to help us at least identify which one of these we can work with. And like you said, these are going to grow, because I know one of my friends is close. He's close.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. We know who you're talking about. He is. And by the way, I've been really quickly, as you were talking, reading the comments, and there were a couple of comments. Tiffany Hollinger, I'm going to call you out. Yes, you said, just for clarity, the guidance is to use an intermediate to get the best use of Facebook ads. And T responded, yes, that's correct. So I want to make sure everyone, there's a lot of content here, and I think sometimes the main message could get missed. The advice of the Facebook real estate team, the team that does this each and every day, Instagram, Messenger, the whole 9 yards, we do advocate that you use one of the tools and or firms that you see in the PDF or the website, either your brokerage tools, so there's several large name brokerage tools, or the independent firms that we've worked hard and collaborated with. And again, I'm seeing in the comments, some firms are not on the list, and some, they'll develop their tools, and hopefully they will get to that point, or they won't. And that's okay. The other thing I want to make clear is, we offered the opportunity to be part of this. If firms don't want to be, that's their decision. It's not, Facebook's not mandating this. This is just, again, our best way of providing you the scale. You guys have numbers. It's 2 million versus us at Facebook, that our team is small. It's not a large team. You'd be probably surprised to know how many people we are on our team covering such a large industry. It's our best way to provide that to you. So I just want to make sure we kind of cover that off again.
I like that, dude. All right. So let's talk about what's happening that we don't get. We don't get to go inside and take a look at what's really happening. We're only looking at it from the news aspect, right? That's Facebook going up against Apple, and Google's jumping in on the back end, and nobody's really talked about that much. But I'm gonna tell you some things. You don't have to tell me if I'm right or wrong. Okay, I'm just
okay.
I'm just telling our
Okay.
audiences, okay?
Okay.
So I know stuff's changing, and,
Yes.
and stuff's always changing. You mentioned it before. Things are always going to change. And I think personally, I think Facebook's doing a good job on the pivoting side to be able to give us or continue to give us great opportunities to be able to market, right? Within Instagram, within Facebook. I know that what we can talk about is that they're coming out with some opportunities for websites. I know groups are having the opportunity to create websites to kind of hold everything in one place, not having to go out to Google or Apple, right?
Right.
And then some landing pages are also being created, almost like the lead ad. You know, when you click on the lead ad and that landing page pops up, that. So I'm starting to see Facebook expand in that way. They've already announced it, so it's not hidden. But here's where I think they're heading, which is cool. I think there's a massive opportunity for Facebook to create their own browser and hold all that data in one place. And to be able to do that, they don't have to then rely on Google or Safari or the App Store in general if they can create something similar, right? And
yeah, so it's interesting because Facebook Marketplace is one of those destinations, right? It's a destination where you're listing, you can list for free, but there's also opportunity now to advertise and build a more microsite within Facebook Marketplace, which is, one of the most engaged consumer base opportunities you can find. Again, people are in there shop. It's a shopping thing. So I think, T, if you think about it, the mindset, there are two mindsets. We want to build and be the advocates for small business. The second thing is that we want to create low friction experiences so that anyone who operates a shopping experience, from a small e-com company to a car dealer to a real estate agent to Nike, to Estee Lauder, onward and so forth, have the opportunity to build those opportunities on platform. And in a day and age where people are spending more time on their phones, mobile. It's funny, I've been saying it for 8 or 9 years because mobile use just continues to go up and up and up. It's the hockey stick. There's never been a flat line. It just continues to go up. What are the ways that we can make shopping and engagement in reaching the consumer easy? Easy for the business, but also easy for the consumer. And have those in harmony. And so the things that you're talking about, Facebook Shops, Marketplace, those destinations will allow for that experience to happen. It's the same thing if you think about it. You have a Facebook page. There's a lot of different ways that you can use that page to your advantage. You can tie it to Messenger. It can be a communications hub. It's not always about paid ads. It's about effectively what is given to you and what's the toolbox in your hand. And so I think from our perspective, we're trying to build more experiences for both the consumer to shop and have an easier mobile experience, in particular, mobile being the key. And the second thing is to operate and give small businesses the opportunity to have a place and a destination where they can reach the consumer. To reach the consumer through ad products, but also reach the consumer through landing, for lack of a better word, destination experiences is what I would kind of call it.
Well, dude, that's a lot. I think one thing we can take from that is that Facebook's always trying to bring everything together from what they have, right? This is why you just saw, if you're paying attention on the Instagram side, not you, but the audience, right? You are always paying attention. We're looking at Instagram now allowing us to share reels into Facebook, kind of like when you post a story on Instagram, it goes into Facebook as an option. So now reels is allowing you to do the same thing into Facebook, which is pretty big because reels is taking off like crazy, right? And so I think that's just barely on the rise. So you get to see, well, how can we use that as agents, right? Are we going to be able to use that further, deeper, because that's where all the eyes are right now? And then also, I know Facebook just released. I'm trying to see if I can find it. There was this great study that they posted up on Facebook.
You sent it to me.
The group,
right? Yeah, the groups one. Yeah.
I thought that was pretty insane. I think I found it, but let me make sure. No, I didn't.
It's funny. It's funny because I have it on my phone from our text thread.
Yeah. So I'll look it up right there. But that just going deeper into groups when people, and this is all coming back to how people are feeling like they're all together in this. Facebook's done a really good job of allowing us to gravitate to communities like groups, right? I mean, look at us, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And so that's not often talked enough about in our world as well, because the companies that you brought up, they're partnered with Facebook, but none of those help us create groups. None of those guide us to how to create those communities. And that's what we naturally do as real estate agents, right? We create these relationships and go further into it. So I don't want to ever leave that out, because I think us as agents, I mean, there's Nikki Klein. She does a great job. I think you met Nikki.
Yeah. Yes, I have.
She does an amazing job in creating communities online. And agents like that can really take their business up another level, especially if we add like a YLOPO, right? Or a Back at You Media on top of that. Then it's like, dude.
Yeah. It's the full suite. I think the other thing I've always had a fascination for, and we're making progress, is Messenger. One of the things I think that's really interesting from a communication perspective. So we've covered the ad side. And so I always put that in this bucket. This is the paid side of the platform of what we do. And so on the organic side, you're right. I think obviously your page, what is the content you want on your page? You know, the page is there for you to actually use content to talk about yourself, talk about the community, talk about trends, like, and you can advertise all that, but you know, it's still a destination for you to have that voice. Groups, obviously building community. I live in Austin, Texas now. We went through, as most of you know, a really tough time a couple of weeks ago. And thankfully, my wife was part of a Facebook group for our neighborhood. It allowed us to communicate people in need, people who had a lot of desperate need. It was the primary communication tool. Literally, we had to shut off the water to our house, and a gentleman on the board saw my wife's post and in his 4x4 came over in a snowstorm, helped us out. So there's the building of community. So if we think about coming out of COVID, one of the big things I think that's an opportunity for agents and brokers to talk about is they are so active in the community. You know, I call it Main Street USA. What is it that you can provide back to your community as a speaker, as a voice? You know, we talk a lot about the branding of an agent. To me, the branding of an agent is also the branding of your community. And Tristan, you've done some really interesting videos that I've watched, and I think celebrate community, celebrate where you are, expand on that. That's another opportunity, I think, for the agent to build that community leadership voice. You know, what is it your community is doing? What is it you would want to say? How do you use that to your advantage? How do you use that to show expertise? How do you use it to reach the consumer? And then the last thing is Messenger. The part that I love about Messenger is authentic identity. How many of us get the text from a random number? And if I don't call out that it's, hey, it's Scott from Facebook, or it's Tristan from LabCoatAgents, right? What the tools of Messenger allow you to do is really communicate efficiently. You can do it through your page. You can set all that up, but it also gives you authenticity. It's real self. It's real identity. And I think that's something agents often miss. That's the secret way to really establish a relationship. And I know Nick has posted in particular a lot about how he kind of ties that together. If you've shown interest in a house, use that point as a starting conversation tool. That tool is free. It doesn't cost you anything to be on Messenger. It doesn't cost you anything to connect that experience to the consumer. It's another communication tool. By the way, I mean, I think it's up to 1.2, 1.3 billion people are on Messenger every day. So the numbers are not insignificant. I mean, it is a hugely important tool. So those are ways I think that we think about how we provide tools to offer community, to offer communication, to offer connection. And yes, you know, obviously there's the advertising piece to it, but there's also just the platform piece.
All right, dude. So let's go a little deeper. So
okay. I'm taking a sip from my Charlie.
Oh, dude, I love that. That's so cute.
Well, on the other side, Yeah, on the other
Oh,
side, Snoopy's pulling Linus. So there you go.
where'd you get that? That is so cool.
My wife found it somewhere. Thank God.
That is really cool, dude. I love that. I'm digging that.
Cool. All right, let's go. Let's go deeper. Let's go.
All
What do
right,
you want to talk
so
about next?
I read a a digital online news outlet called The Information. I don't know if you guys, all right. It's take a look at it. It's more tech oriented, Silicon Valley type thing, and one of those, I think it was yesterday or the day before. Mark Zuckerberg was on a podcast for them. Right, he loves The Information.
I'm seeing this. Yeah.
He talked about AR and VR, and
yes,
that's like where his heart and mind are. Like
that's
100%.
Yes.
Right. And so let's fast forward, because nobody's paying attention to that world, I feel, except Facebook, but nobody's talking about it up front, like as a mass population. And in real estate, we look at a company like EXP, right? I'm Keller Williams, but I love all brands, right? And we look at a company like EXP, and they've jumped into the Verbella world, right, where it's virtual.
Yeah.
And they're starting to see how all of a sudden, because of COVID, that went bigger. Right now, you have the NBA, Amazon, they're using it.
Right.
And so I'm looking at this being more of a place that is now more realistic than ever before, because if Facebook's pushing forward with virtual worlds, how much deeper can we go when I see and read this here? Now I'm going to share my screen because I found it.
Yeah.
How much deeper can we go and connect? If this is the power of virtual communities, what I shared with you. If you have this and it says 77% of people surveyed say the most important group they are part of now operates online, right? That's, to me, that's just saying, hey, we want more, but we want to connect deeper. We want to connect even more on a personal level online. And the only thing left to me, unless I can teleport to you, right? Which I can't.
One day.
I'm thinking more like, and we've seen it in the past, at least in movies, Star Wars type of, appearances, like a Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine going back.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that's the future that nobody's talking about, because all of a sudden now, if we have all this technology everywhere and we can connect in that way, that puts us in a whole different world, both in our businesses, right?
Right.
And in real life, right? So what do you see that? I mean, I know I popped the question out to you.
No. I'm happy to answer it. I think we saw, how do I put this? Because I've thought about this a lot, actually. We saw, I think, sort of the first drops of the iceberg hit at the beginning of COVID. And you and I were very involved in this. You gave us a great platform and a lot of time to talk about Facebook Live and Instagram Live. And I know that's not right now AR, VR, but hold tight. There's a through line to everything that we're talking about. I think that was the first real point where people were in a position where they had no mobility. They couldn't go out. They couldn't connect in a one-to-one human way that we're normally connected to. And so technology through your cell phone for free through our platforms allowed agents, or it allowed people in the community, doctors to talk about what was going on in the community with COVID, or an agent to do a virtual home tour. If you think about it, right? Or someone out in the community talking about, I've been really surprised moving here. I joined a synagogue. Everything is online. I have friends now that are friends I didn't have in May when I moved here, and I've never met them in person. To your point about groups and about connections, close friends, people who are like referring me to doctors, people who are right, like seriously, so think about that, right? That's a two-dimensional way of communication. So I think that's the first tip of the iceberg, is the live tool. So it's Zoom, it's Facebook Messenger Rooms, it's all of these different types of tool sets. I think Facebook and Instagram Live in particular, being out in the community, That was part of that. So it's, how do I take my business, show my business to a multitude of people who maybe can't get to me physically? So I think that's the first tip of that kind of iceberg of technology. Where I think it gets really interesting, and technology, price, and distribution have to all kind of connect. And I think that's exactly what we're trying to do. And Mark's vision is, so in a couple of years, instead of just a Facebook Live where I've got my cell phone and we've got, oh God, what's the stick, Tristan? It's like a selfie stick on steroids.
Are you talking about the Osmo?
Something like that, right? Like where it's like when we were doing all this stuff last year, we were like, go buy this. Yeah. And then, exactly.
I got you.
Well, I mean, now I think what's going to happen in the next couple of years is things will be shot virtually in 3 dimensions. And it's already happening, but the cost is really high, right? So when cost comes down, consumer adaptability and consumer consumption goes up. And we've seen it with any piece of technology, right? The first Blu-ray player, hugely expensive. As the price comes down, use goes up. Same thing with smart TVs, electric cars. So I think this is where the world is going. What I can't predict is how fast will we get there at mass. And I think right now, consumer disruption and consumer trends are often a little bit more unpredictable. And I think going back to your example about Reels, my example about stories, these are tidal waves of consumer behavior. And what happens is the consumers usually move faster than the businesses and the enterprise to get to those technology solutions. So if we think about it, it was what drove the use of stories was consumers, our community using this as a tool. And then the advertising community goes, aha, that's where my consumer is spending the time. Similarly, I think with live, it's the same thing. That's a way in which agents through these tough times could really survive and really show their listing. And it's innovative and it's engaging and it's what people want. And we call it lean back behavior. I'm literally leaning back in my chair. I want to watch this for the next 20 minutes. It's you. Congratulations, you're hosting your own house hunters. You finally made it to HGTV, right? You're doing that.
Well, that's where AR and VR come together.
Exactly. And so when the cost of the technology meets that, when that inflection point flips, and then the demand is high because the cost is low, that's when I think we'll have it in mass. And then, to kind of bring it full circle, like if you think about where are we in 5 years, those providers on that list, trust me, they're going to have to build on top of our API and build those experiences or connect or merge together or band together to have that technology because the consumer expects it.
The consumer expects it. Right. So we need a more detailed Matterport, right? A Matterport experience. And we also need a better Oculus, right? Because now imagine popping up the Oculus and going through, like, you want to purchase in Austin. Well, all of the Austin homes pop up that have the Matterport that are for sale. And then you could just tour them, meet your agent there and be like, oh yeah, let's take a look at this. Dude, that's a whole different world.
And it's interesting. And I actually, in front of an entire community of people, I owe you a text after this. I have actually wanted to talk to you about this very topic. So it's just fortuitous, like, and for the group, we did not prep this. This was just a complete, like, let's have a conversation as friends. But there are some things that, again, we're starting to think about from a creative perspective. How does that look? How does that feel? What's the way to create that kind of technology? And again, build tools for the masses. So the mass advertiser, the single business, SMB, person on Main Street, USA, in an office trying to sell their listings, sell their expertise and wares. And then there's also for the consumer. The consumer is going to want that experience. Once that catches on, then it's just a full throttle effect. So oftentimes what I would say is consumers using these tools will probably give you the next best indication of where things are going.
Dude, I just kind of mapped out the slight future of our world in the next internet as we were talking. So the thing that Zillow was great at is they anticipated where the consumer wanted to be and what information they wanted, right? So we fast forward to now, I actually, as we were talking, I now understand what the hell's happening in the Facebook world. So the browser, I got it. The browser that that Mark Zuckerberg's creating is a virtual world. That's the browser. He's anticipating that people will be wanting to go in deep VR, AR, right? So
yes,
he's one-upping Google and Apple and saying, hey, this is the next place we're going to be in. This is our world, like Ready Player One, right?
Yeah, and we're seeing it. And I'm not a gamer, so I'm not a really great. Neither is my 14-year-old daughter. She won't touch the stuff. But like, you know, the gaming world is become that, right? See, I mean, when I was shopping for headphones, noise canceling headphones for like doing webinars, you know, everything led with great for gaming. I was like, wow, okay, it's so immersive. And so obviously the Oculus Rift, those are, you know, primarily gaming tools. But I think we're going to find, think about travel. I mean, it's the same thing, right? It's, you know, if I'm Expedia and I have, you know, listings, their listings are the hotel rooms when we get out of the pandemic. If I'm Airbnb, you know, that's going to be the world that we're going to live in. I mean, even think about, there's rudimentary implementation of this for sports. Last, I guess 2 Christmases ago, I took my father-in-law and my brother-in-law to a San Antonio Spurs game. You know, their website has, you know, pick a seat, you kind of get a view. And it's very basic, rudimentary, but that's the world we're going to, right? That immersive world where you're going to be able to see everything in a travel experience, the cruise ship, you know, everything, right? It's the Matterport experience. You know, show me the casino, show me the theater. And the home is going to be the same way. It's just the cost will have to come down so that we have mass based, you know, it's like the cell phone, right? You know, now everybody can do a Facebook Live. Everybody can do that because the cost is manageable for the device, the hardware. And then the distribution network becomes, frankly, our platform where people are spending their time. So I think it's a brave, interesting future. It's one of the things that excites me. I always feel very fortunate. I've been at Facebook for 8.5 years, and I think from my first day in September of 2012 to where we're sitting and having a conversation now in March of 2021, at one point, just thinking through some conversations I had with, you know, leaders and other things over the course of the years, where it's like, well, maybe we'll get there, and it's like, well, we're so far beyond that now. Like we're on to the, you know, we're on to, you know, my thoughts that were very rudimentary are like, you know, they're basic now.
That's so funny.
So,
well,
so
dude,
I hope this gives people some exciting things to think about for the future.
I was going to say, yeah, I think there's a lot to think about, and I think if NAR wants to maybe catch up to Zillow, I think they should really be looking at VR, AR, and start looking at how that plan looks when Facebook launches this awesome world VR. Because, I mean, dude, Redfin, Zillow, CoStar, Open Door, if they're first, they've got an edge on us. So
yeah, I think NAR is. I know a few people over there who are thinking about that. And really trying to figure that space out. I think some of it is, again, it's still nascent, but they are, to be fair to them, and knowing a few of those folks over there who are really, they are focused on it. That I know several people, that is their only focus. So the good news is I think that they're thinking about this for the industry. They want to help and they want to provide those solutions, or at least the guidance for the industry. So, but I think to sum it up, you know, the top provider initiative is our first step in a lot of things that we want to do over the next year. Can I tease out what we've been talking about this week? Or
heck yeah, dude, do it.
Okay, so my industry lead, Keith Watts, who's been on several podcasts, he's written articles for Adweek. I've worked with almost really my entire 8.5-year run at Facebook with Keith. He's going to be doing in second quarter and through the end of the year a series with Tristan and Nick and LabCoat, with also key CEOs, like a fireside chat. And a lot of the things that Tristan and I started talking about, you'll actually be able to hear from leading CEOs in the industry, talking to Keith, having Tristan involved, like having a real nice fireside chat. It's a series that we're going to roll out, I think in April. I know that obviously the group here will be well informed about it, but I think it's just another way to think about, you know, a TED Talk, a way to think about the industry. There's so many questions. There's so many people who write about this. I think the thing we want to really always do, and, you know, Tristan, thank you again. Thank you to the LabCoatAgent community, is really provide our voice. It does pain me, and I know Keith and others, like sometimes to have people interpret where we're going. You guys provide us such a wonderful opportunity to speak directly with our first person voice to the industry, and it's so appreciated. Hope everybody got something out of this. Please liberally use those resources, download the PDF, try partners, use them. Don't struggle on your own. Don't do it on your own. We've got a great network of folks who really know how to use our tools. And there's a lot coming along, and I'm sure I'll be back for more talk, probably in the spring in addition to Keith's talks that you guys are going to be doing.
I love it, dude. Thanks for joining us again. Great information. We got some thank yous here and on Facebook. So I appreciate you doing this, buddy.
Anytime, you always know that this is a community it is really near and dear to my heart, because we have been together for a long time as friends and as collaborators. So anytime, anywhere, I'm there to talk to the folks in a wonderful group. And thank you guys for just being one of the standout examples of what a Facebook group can do for an industry. I think it's to what Tristan was talking about, that connection, that community. It's great stuff. So thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Tristan. Thanks, everyone.